So it's just 5 things that you need to do, and your life will be now more happy, more tranquil, and your attitude toward money, toward possessions, and towards things will improve greatly. Buddhism isn't about having faith or worshiping a god, or it's about taking responsibility for your own life. And if you want to live a good life, do the things that will create a good life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conscious Money. Today, I have a very special guest, Mr. David Johnson, who is a meditation teacher and is a resident teacher at Dhamma Sukha Meditation Center. He's also a longtime senior student of Bhante Vimala Ramsey and is author of The Path to Nibbana. David has a very long list of tasks on his to-do list on the website and was my meditation guide in an 10-day online retreat that I did recently and was a very good teacher. I wanted to talk to David about the Buddha's teachings on prosperity and money. Oh, the book is very good, The Path to Nibbana. It explains the meditation beautifully. So please look up the book.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, Cleona, and I'm happy that we're finally getting this done.
So what is the basis of the Buddha's view about money?
Well, you have to kind of look at the Buddha's basis for living. Let me ask you a question. When you say conscious money, what do you mean by conscious money? Is it money that's aware and conscious, or is it something else? What is it?
In my experience with life and money, I work as a financial advisor, so I talk to lots of people about money. And I realized that we are all very dysfunctional with the way we handle money and quite unconscious in not questioning our beliefs and things about money. So conscious money is sort of a space to explore our unconsciousness with money in the hope of getting more conscious and clear with money. Lots of things get in the way, wanting to grab more, wanting to have more, even when we have enough, or repelling money, being I don't want money, it's dirty, or just being very confused with money. And I think they correspond to the craving and clinging, and so
yeah,
that's what conscious money is about.
So it sounds like making something more conscious is making something more wholesome, more uplifted, getting it out of the gutter, getting it out of stinginess, getting it out of unwholesome states, less grasping, more generous, more caring. So it's interesting. It really is more than conscious money. It's conscious everything, and being conscious or being wholesome. And the Buddha taught the path to being happy. And of course, happy comes from doing things that are good and that are right and that help people and help yourself, and things that don't harm. They help, but they don't harm. So there's a lot of things we could talk about being conscious. But I would say that the first thing to talk about is that your life has to be lived in a conscious manner, which means it must be moral. Now, don't freak out with the word moral, because moral, it's we all do live moral lives. We may not think about it, but we don't go around robbing banks, killing people, and all these kind of things. So we have a sense of morality. There's certain things maybe we do that later we feel guilty about, but they're not a big deal. So we do live by morality, and the Buddha brought in a whole system of following rules and being moral. And the first thing is, of course, following the 5 precepts. And if you follow these 5 precepts, everything that you do, you're not going to have any guilt or remorse about. So it's just 5 things that you need to do, and your life will be now more happy, more tranquil, and your attitude toward money, toward possessions, and towards things will improve greatly. And I think you know what those 5 precepts are, right?
Yeah. Don't ask me to say them, though.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but They are, yes, the five precepts that you take when you go on retreat. Um, Actually, you
Yeah.
take eight. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the five are simple enough, and I have
The,
found it easy to follow.
mhm.
Slightly challenging sometimes with the no drinking when there's like my favorite cocktail going around,
Yeah. Right. No
but it's
intoxicants. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, and no swearing and wise speech. Um,
Hmm.
I have stuck to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first one is no killing,
Mm,
no harming of any living being. It means no fighting, and no killing of even small creatures like bugs. Every time you kill something, there's guilt that arises in your mind. You may not be aware of it, but you've just taken the life of another being, and there's something in there that goes, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have done that." But
mm,
most people have just pushed this down, or they justify it, or whatever. So the first thing is, you know, your life. You're now not going to harm anybody, and people don't. They don't need to be scared of you, and there's all kinds of benefits from that. So
mhm,
no harming. There's no stealing, and it's really no not taking what is not given. And that means you don't go into your neighbor's house and he invites you in for coffee, and you don't go to the refrigerator and start getting out the milk and the sugar and start doing. You say, "Can I do that?" So given you are given that uh, instead of taking it. So you don't take without giving or getting permission. And of course,
mhm,
stealing, taking things. And then the no lying, as you said harsh speech. It's really the most important part of that is lying, telling a story and pretending that this is that, and when it
mm,
isn't. Because once you get the lie going, then you got to do another lie, and then that doesn't, and it just becomes this huge, and you start to live in a lie, and your mind starts to get actually a little crazy. It can lead to mental illness in a sense. You don't even know where you are anymore. You've created all of these stories. So no lying, no harsh speech if you can. It in this society and watching TV now, and it's just swear word after swear word. But there's anger, and there's harshness, there's hatred in whenever you say something that's harsh like that. So now you're bringing your mind down again. Sexual misconduct. I mean, this is adultery. This is, young kids for the most part. We don't need to worry about it. No cheating, nothing like that. You make a
mm,
commitment, and that's done. And no intoxicants. And that doesn't mean coffee. I drink plenty of coffee. I love coffee. And but no smoking of various substances, and drinking alcohol and that sort of thing. So
mm,
those five things, if you do that, you're going to go to bed at night knowing you haven't done anything wrong, and get up. And so there's your first level of happiness, of tranquility in your life. And that's your basis. So what the second thing is, generosity. So there's three things that the Buddha talked about: morality, generosity, and meditation practice, or bhavana, or the meditation itself, or wisdom. And the second thing, of course, is generosity. So time to start letting go of some of that money, helping other people. It's not just money. We help people do things. If they want to borrow something, we give something to them. We become less stingy. And the Buddha talked about stinginess is conquered by a gift. So if you feel like you're holding something, or your relationship is not working, give the person a gift. It will just change the conversation, if you will. Changes the whole perspective. So generosity, the morality, and meditation is something else that we can talk about for another time. But those are the two main points that the Buddha would base your life on to make it more conscious.
mm. I do have to say, like, the no killing is a little challenging because I do a lot of gardening, and I have had to stop killing slugs
Mm-hmm,
in the
mm-hmm.
garden. And then the no lying, he I didn't realize, like, I don't lie in general, but sometimes you tell like little social lies,
Yeah,
because you want to
little
avoid
white
hurting
lies.
somebody. Like,
Yeah.
I can't make, tonight because whatever, like you make some weak excuse.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's quite nice to cut that out. I mean, I'm not Buddhist. I'm not sort of religious particularly, but I really like the precepts. I think they make sense. And the whole thing of the connection with a wholesome mind, being like a peaceful mind, is also better for meditation. And I didn't quite understand how important the wholesome mind is in relationship to money. And something you were explaining when we spoke the last time was how, like, there are plenty of wealthy people that are financially wealthy that don't appear to have wholesome minds. You know, they commit extreme human rights abuses and things like that. They're oppressing people, and they've made their money in what looks like very unwholesome ways. And I think you were talking about karma and how they might have got the money because they did some wholesome deeds in the past, but they could also lose it. And I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, either one of us won the lottery. Karma, somebody has done something good in the past, and in this lifetime or other lifetimes, if you want to believe in that's fine. But in this lifetime, we've done a lot of good things too. Maybe we gave a gift to somebody deep in our past, and that gift is somehow turned into them creating their own company, and they got rich, and they remembered the loan that you gave them, and so they look you up and they come and they say, "Hey, here's $1 million. I really appreciate what you did for me." And so but here's the thing: it's your choice what to do. So you've made some good merit in the past. You gave a loan to that person. They come back and they give you some money. So what do you do with the money? So people will say, "Oh, you're such a lucky person," and people give you money, and I said, "No, not really, but they did this time. But now it's my choice as to what to do with it. Am I going to use this money to buy drugs? Am I going to use this money to create a business where I make even more money based on my greed? Um, am I go- am I going to do things that are not in respecting the five precepts, uh, harming people, being greedy?" So now it's your choice. So many people who are rich, they make their money, but money can corrupt, and that greed in the mind can take over. There's a sutta. It said, "A man who gets a mountain of gold, he's not happy because he wants two mountains of gold, pure, made of pure gold. This man is not happy with two mountains of gold. He's only happy if he gets three mountains of gold." We never get enough. Desire in the mind. And so we have to see that and not react based on that. We have to become more conscious, more giving with that money. Maybe we take that money and we create another business, and the business is fully ethical, and we take some of the money and we give it away. It's how we deal with that money. But the mind being what it is, with all the hindrances and all the distractions and the hatred and the greed, can go off into these directions. But if you have a basic set of rules that you follow, hopefully that's going to stop you from going there.
And the Buddha gave a formula, didn't he, about a third or a quarter, a quarter. I like that formula. It's very simple. And
Yeah. Yeah. A formula how to spend your money. So the first, let's say you have an income, you have a salary. So, and I followed this while I was at work. I worked for 30 years in Silicon Valley, in networking. I mean, that's where everybody worked. When the internet was first coming around, it was an
yeah.
exciting time, let me tell you. So I took my paycheck and I allocated, based on the Buddhist instructions, 50% to living expenses. That means rent, mortgage, food, um, car payment, your basic expenses to live. And that means you have 50% and you spend that and you go ahead and spend that. Then you have another 25% that you save. And that's 25%. And when I made out my payroll form to put 25%, I saw how much money was going to kind of come out of my check. And I thought, oh, that's going to create a really nice nest egg for me. And it did. It really did. I left work with a lot of money in some mutual funds because I saved, I saved, I saved. And so that's 25% of saving. 25% uh, you spend on entertainment and you give. So it's kind of, you could split that in half if you wanted to, but you want to give away some of your money. Don't just hold it all for yourself. You take half of it, you give it away to whatever charity makes sense to you. The other half, though, go out and have fun. It's okay to have fun, just, wholesome fun, but enjoy your life. The Buddha said, he never said, be a monk and live in the forest. That's okay if you want to be a monk. But if you want to be a lay person, enjoy. And at the time of the Buddha, there were many people, many princes and kings who had just endless amounts of wealth, but they donated so much of it to the Buddha and his monks. And there is one of the things that happened during that time is there were several kings, and what they would do in their kingdoms is that they would create at each entrance of the kingdom a place where poor people could go and eat. And there would be food there, there would be clothing, there would be shelter, there would be everything at these four central places. And this was a big part of, if you were rich, you were expected to help, and they did. And so nobody went hungry because the king and other rich people were creating these places, call them homeless shelters, but they didn't really call them that at that time. But there was an attitude of giving away money and keeping it there. But if you live your life 50, 25, 25, things are going to go well. And when you say 50%, don't make it 10%. Don't be stingy. Don't get an old beat up car just because you're trying to save some money. No, keep those percentages so that you allocate, how much money that you make, that it's reasonable that you'd have that kind of car and you'd live in that kind of place. Because we do love ourselves, number one, and we should take care of ourselves because we're the most important person to us. And when we're taken care of, we will take care of other people as well. So take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. And, spend appropriately.
Yeah. I like that invitation to spend 50% of your expenses on you and like on living. And, it's like a very clear formula. What is, this, we also have, as humans, our fears and our anxieties about the future and whatever experiences color our conditioning differently. But there is sometimes this tendency to hoard, and there's like a scarcity mentality, to hoard and to accumulate endlessly. What would be the antidote to that? To practice generosity, or?
Well, yeah. So if you want to develop a wholesome mind, you want to be able to not be stingy. And that means you want to be generous. So people can't just learn not to be stingy. It's something that you have to do gradually. You have to, you do learn to do it, but it's not like because you saw it on a Facebook post, you're going to be all of a sudden generous and all these little things. Oh, you should be generous. Well, how do you do that? What did the Buddha say about being generous? He said, if beings knew as I know the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given. nor would the stain of miserliness overcome their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared, if there were someone to receive their gift. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given. The stain of miserliness overcomes their minds. So we have to be generous. We have to give away our food. We have to buy meals for people. So, what's the reward of doing that? Well, here, these are the 5 rewards of generosity. One is dear and appealing to people at large. One is admired by good people. One's good name is spread about. One does not stray from the rightful duties of the householder. And with the breakup of the body at death, one reappears in a good destination in the heavenly worlds. So, generosity is the second pillar of the Dhamma that has to be developed. And I'll tell you my own little story about that. Um, Boy, when I first started working, I worked in a very low-paying job. I had just actually left a meditation center, and I really didn't have many skills, so I kind of started at the bottom, and I didn't feel great. I mean, mentally, it was kind of depressing, and the whole thing it wasn't a good situation. And one night it was raining and it was cold, and I was living in this kind of part of a garage. I mean, it was a room, but it was attached to the garage. It was like, wow, this is not great. So I thought, well, what could I do? And I remembered that the Buddha had said, be generous, give a gift. And so I wrote out a big check for $10 and I sent it to a meditation center. And I immediately felt just a little bit better. And I thought, well, see, because I didn't worry about myself at that moment, I worried about something else. It was just taking that worry away. And gradually I realized I started writing more checks and I wrote bigger checks. And pretty soon I had the ability, because I started to make more money, things started to come to me, I could write even bigger checks. And if I had the opportunity at lunch to buy the lunch, I bought the lunch. And pretty soon somebody called me Diamond Jim because every time I'd go out, I would collect a check. Well, years later, I'd go to lunch and my lunch would always be bought. It was like I couldn't even buy it anymore. And sometimes I would grab the check and somebody says, could I buy lunch? You're always buying lunch. I said, okay, I'm very generous. I'm going to give you the check. And they said, oh, thank you so much. And of course, sometimes this has to do with Sangha. The monks would be in attendance and people want to pay their meals. I said, and I've got the check. And I said, oh, okay, you pay the check. And that's the ultimate of giving. So pretty soon, if you keep giving and giving and giving, you'll never worry about having money. You're going to look in your wallet or your purse. There's always going to be money there. The more you give away, the more you're going to get back. You're going to see your salaries going up. Over a year or two, you're going to see things happen, because it's what you give away you're going to get back in that karmic bank that you're creating.
I agree with everything you said. But I have come across people who are like in debt and who are compulsive givers. And I always think about intention. Like, are you being generous out of compulsion because you want to look good, or because you just, you have weak boundaries, or you don't truly feel generous, but you feel like you have to pay? Because I think, I don't know if I'm making a good point, but I do come across people who are like, they are always picking up the check and they don't have money. And then I think your responsibility is also to look after yourself first again, and not to be generous
Yes.
unless you have a feeling of, I have something surplus. This is not going to hurt me if I give it away. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense, because you could
Yeah.
do it out of greediness, or out of not wanting to look poor, or wanting to look, your reputation, trying to create
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
karma is action. If you do give and you go into debt, as long as you pay your debt back, who cares? You've given. When I first came to Dhamma Sukha about 12 years ago, right before that, I heard that the teacher here was living in a trailer that was full of holes. I mean, at night, the temperatures were getting down to 28 and he had no heat. And I said, this has got to stop. And they said, well, we just don't have any money. And I says, okay, I don't have what you need, but I'll just write one of these Citibank checks, you know, and I'm going to send it to you. Here's $10,000. And I sent it to them. They built a whole little cabin for them. And now it's got my name on it, you know, and it was funny because I wrote that not having the money, but within 2 to 3 months, I had it all paid back. It was like I wrote it and the money came right back to me. And all of a sudden, the debt's gone. So, you know, if you need to start out of debt, well, at least start. If you don't give, you won't receive any benefit from that. And your mind, some people will say, yeah, but if I give, I'm just going to be seen as trying to get something back. Well, if you don't give, you're not going to be seen as anything and you're going to be still stingy and still tight. So start with a little bit and start working your way up. And what happened with me was I would just start to give money out. I would give, pay for this and it was just like it wasn't my money anymore. And it wasn't, because it wasn't the idea of me or mine started to disappear. That craving mind, which is grasping everything and is making it mine, taking things personally, started to loosen up. So here's where generosity starts to help your meditation and starts to help your lifestyle and your conscious and everything becomes so much easier and lighter.
Mm.
You don't hold on to anything. So that's the benefit of generosity, is bringing happiness to yourself, making your mind more calm, tranquil, joyful, those kinds of things.
Yes. And the point being, so often we think that money is a means to achieving those things, happiness, peace, tranquility. What we're really after is that. But then we chase money. And
You
not that
know,
money is a bad thing, but,
there's The Secret, right? The Secret. Yeah. The book, which
yeah,
is going around there forever. And so you
about
visualize,
manifestation.
yeah,
Yeah.
you visualize what you want and you see it. And I did all of that. I had my board with my Mercedes on it and my house. And when I was like 22 or 23 or something like that.
Sure.
And later on, I got 3 Mercedes, 3 Porsches, Audis. I mean, cars were coming out everywhere. But I went back and reread the book. And at the end of the book, or maybe I saw a video, I don't know. But the guy was, it's not about visualizing what you want. It's actually visualizing yourself as happy. And when you're happy, everything comes. And so the idea is not to try to figure out what it is that makes you happy, like what material thing, but to figure out why you are not happy and work on that directly, which is meditation and
Yeah.
watching and being mindful of who you are and why you're working the way you are. So the idea is to just visualize yourself as happy and let that do the work.
Yeah. It's about being, not having. That's what I got from the book. I also read the book, watched the
Yeah.
video. Rhonda Byrne. It's a good book, and there's a
Okay.
sequel to it, which is also very good. But
Yeah.
it's not about visualizing a pink elephant and having a pink elephant in your room. It's about the feeling, the creative source of life, I think, that you can get in touch with. Do you trust life? Do you trust life to take care of your needs because you sort of go with the flow, and is that
Yeah. Yeah.
a very firm, unshakable. What is that like?
Well,
And does
again,
that change with meditation?
well, of course.
Yeah.
um, Meditations. Well, I mean, we're generosity is going to make you a lot lighter, and you're going to just your needs are just going to happen. You know,
Mhm.
like food, for example. I can not get away from food. I mean, I'm never going to go hungry because it just seems to chase me down and give me way too much. And it's like, okay, that's enough food. So your needs are going to be taken care of. But so you're still have anger, you still have sensual desire, and you still have those kinds of things that will disturb you. And the five precepts are the start. But now what we have to do is start to see how you're taking things personally and how you're grabbing hold of things and how you're being disturbed in your own mind. And so, of course, meditation is what we need to do. We need to start to watch what arises, and we need to understand what is the problem here. We suffer. The Buddha said there's four noble truths. And the first noble truth is that there is suffering, and we experience suffering. Doesn't mean everything is suffering. It means that our reaction to life can be suffering, and we may not like this, and we may want that, but we can't have that. So the second noble truth is that's what is the cause of this suffering? It is craving. It is wanting things that we can't have. It is not accepting what we do have. It is pushing away, hating what is coming at us that we don't like. Um, it is it is the cause of suffering. So the third noble truth is the cessation of that suffering, of that taking things personally, of anger, of these desires. It's the cessation of all of this craving, or the Buddha called it tanha. It's a force that's in the mind. It's like fire. And whenever you're angry, you can feel this. Your face can get red, and it can get its heat. Or even in desire, you can just this craving force is just like just hits your whole body. You can feel this wave of stickiness or warmth. And so this is the force of tanha, of craving. So the cessation of that uh, is the solution. And the path to that is the Eightfold Path, which is what the Buddha taught as to how to do the meditation and to start to see how all of this arose and to let go of all of these hindrances, this taking personally, anger. When it arose, you see it. And we like to do this process called the 6 R's, which means if I get disturbed at somebody calls me a terrible name. In my mind, I'll have some anger. And so I see that anger and I recognize that it's there. I recognize it. Then I release my paying attention to that anger and paying attention to my own thoughts that say, oh, that person, I am going to get them and I am going to, go after them. Okay, so just stop that whole process in your mind right now. And third is just relax, just take a breath and just calm down. And maybe it's time to just walk away. And then the fourth part is to just bring back a wholesome feeling and bring back that sense of everything is okay. And in that case is just, come back into the present. In your meditation, you would actually bring back a feeling, a wholesome feeling, with a smile, actually. A smile is very uplifting to the mind. And with that smile, that mind uplifts, and then you can go back to your meditation. And whether it's breath or whether it is the feeling of loving kindness, which is what we like to teach, you then go back to that feeling and then continue. And so you recognize there is an unwholesome feeling that has arisen. You let go of that feeling. You bring up a wholesome feeling, and you keep it going. And that's the 4 right efforts that the Buddha taught. And he didn't say to push them away, feel guilty about it, get angry about your being angry, beat yourself up. He said to stop, recognize it, release, relax, and smile again, bring up the wholesome, and continue on. And gradually, what will happen is those things stop coming. And there will be a moment at times when a hindrance, something will arise, and you will see it and release it. It's like automatic, and it will just disappear, and it will not come back. And gradually in the meditation, you'll get to a point where certain parts of this craving mind no longer come up. There is no longer any anger. There is no longer this overriding central desire, I have to have this. You're okay with what you have. Doesn't mean you can't upgrade to that, but you don't go around thinking about it, wanting it. You just go, well, that would be nice, and that would fit my needs. So it's more now about your needs, and not needs to the point of you're going to get the worst possible solution. You're going to get something that's appropriate for you, that's nice. But you're not going to get the Rolls Royce. You're going to get a nice Mercedes. Maybe not an S class, but maybe a C class. I don't know all the classes. I don't have one now. I have my 1998.
You moved past your materialistic 21, 22-year-old days.
Yeah. I still have a 1998 Camry that's out front, which it's fine. I don't need much of a car here, So anyway, that's the meditation process is where we go about fixing all of these things and seeing them.
I think the meditation process is important for those who are interested in meditation, of course, because the craving can manifest in so many different ways. And, it's not always just money. It's like, more holidays, more whatever. It's just that constant agitation with dissatisfaction with what's happening right now and wanting like a better moment, but then missing this one. That's what I find. Often my mind makes up stories about, if I was doing this, I'd be happier. If I was doing that, I'd be more free. If I was in a warmer climate, I'd be like, it's always making up some stories. And then you see, okay, this is another like fancy pants idea, which is taking me away from enjoying what's happening right now.
Thinking about the future, thinking about the past, thinking about the present. It's all these stories that we're all making up. Why can't we be quiet and just be here now? And then live our lives. But no, we are infected with this virus of craving. And that's what the Buddha said, is that if we can just pull this virus out and just live without it, then we'd be very happy. Because what would be left? There would be loving kindness, there would be mindfulness, there would be joy, there would be equanimity, and everything would be good. And the Buddha said, we are the happy ones. It's eliminating these craving forces.
Yeah, it's already our nature to be happy, to be peaceful.
Yeah. It's there.
Well,
it's
our true nature.
Yeah,
it's there. And I wanted to also add one point, which I should have said earlier, but forgot, was about generosity. That generosity can sometimes, it doesn't always have to be money or material things, because I'm sort of keen to encourage anti-consumerism. So, for example, in my family, I don't give Christmas gifts, and I haven't since I was like 18, 19, not very popular about, my gift giving. But I am generous with my time and with my, if somebody has a problem, I can listen to them. I'll be generous to people who need stuff. But, this whole conditioning of Christmas time or Valentine's Day, or you can be generous in many different ways. You can be generous with your emotional labor, your empathy, or if you come across a homeless person, it's great if you can give them money if you feel drawn to, or a coffee. But sometimes just looking at them, making eye contact, acknowledging that they're human, even that is an act of generosity.
Listening to their story and treating them like a human being. Yeah.
Treating them with dignity. Exactly. Not making them invisible. Just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, what would be some examples you've come across of righteous wealth righteously gained? I think there was something in the I'm not a sutta expert, but was there something in the Anguttara Nikaya? And are there like examples of unskillful, unwise, corrupt behavior with money?
Well, unwise, corrupt. I mean, I think we know that. I mean, the answer is Bernie
Yeah,
Madoff and all the criminal activity and
yeah,
but
that's craving
righteously
like to be
gained.
other to infinity. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Buddha did say that money is to be earned by the sweat of the brow, by the tilling of the fields, by work, and not by gambling, and not by unethical means. But it's actually to be gained wholesomely, ethically, by work, and
Mm.
to create something that helps somebody else, and then they pay you for it. So a Bill Gates or a Warren Buffett who's gotten billions of dollars, they've made a lot of good choices. Um, they haven't blown it. They have it. They've saved it. They've, their attitudes towards money. I mean, I can't, Warren Buffett is, a wonderful example because he still drives his original car and he lives in a moderate house. So he's not full of craving. He just is fine. He's accepted everything as it is, but he's worth like $60 billion or something like this. And he clearly doesn't break rules. He follows all the rules with his investing. Um, he probably doesn't invest in companies where he knows that things are not being done ethically, sweatshops. I can't say, but this is the best thing to do is to look at the companies you're investing in or where your money's going and make sure it's going to the right type of place, where it's going to be used wisely.
Yeah. Again, like just being conscious about it because me too. Like I never thought about, oh, like, back when I was younger, I would just invest in anything that I thought would make money. I never thought
Yeah.
about, are there harmful environmental practices? What are the labor practices? Are they employing children? It didn't even occur to me. And it's part of, I
Ye-
suppose, becoming
yeah.
mature, growing up and learning what the world is like.
Part of the Eightfold Path is wholesome livelihood, is right
Mm,
livelihood. And that means not dealing in poisons, not dealing in weapons, not dealing in the slaughtering of meat or animals. Like when I first started working, I worked at a company. It was a microwave company, not microwave ovens, but microwave technology for like fighter jets. And we made radars for B-52s and F-15s. And as I got more into Buddhism, I thought, well, I don't know about this, and
mm,
I looked around. I said, well, I'm not really doing anything to harm anybody, and a radar doesn't harm anybody. It's not a weapon. So I thought, well, I was kind of on the edge there, and after a few years, I moved on to another company, just making internet stuff. But
mm,
let's, look at where you're working. We had a meditator come, and he did pretty well in meditation, but he only got to a certain level. And it turned out that he owned a wine distribution company. And so he had to drink with his customers, and he knew that really wasn't the greatest thing to be doing. And he sold alcohol. And selling intoxicants is considered a wrong livelihood. So, years later now, he's out of that business. But he went for years, and he seemed to not want to meditate. And then when he meditated, it wasn't good, and it caused a problem in his mind. So right livelihood is something
mm.
to consider. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the whole gun culture in America is very violent and causes a lot of suffering. One question I did want to ask you is, I remember like talking up to Bhante Ananda in India about the fact that like 1% of monks don't even touch money, don't
Hmm.
transact with money. Like if they receive donations, it goes to someone else who looks after the money for them. And Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah.
if you could speak to that. Like, how do they function?
So the Buddha was very sneaky. So what he did is he said he had his monks depend on the lay people for their needs. The lay people then would depend on the monks for the teachings. And so monks would not be allowed to have anything really. They were not allowed to have money. And in the suttas, it says not allowed to have gold or silver, which was money at the time. They were not allowed to keep food in their huts. They were not allowed to cook. They only went out for the alms round, and they had their bowl, and lay people would then put food in it, and then they would go back, and then this would take care of their needs. And lay people would also offer robes, they would offer medicines and those kinds of things. So monks did not need anything, they were taken care of. Now this was to keep the monks from running into the forest and disappearing and just meditate on their own, never to be heard from again. They're in the
Peace and bliss.
cave. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, the heck with people. I'm no, no. The Buddha said, nope, nope. You're not going to do that. You're going to help other people too, and in helping them, you will help yourself.
Mhm.
And so the lay people would get their teachings, and many times the monk would go and take a meal at the lay person's house, and then the monk would give a talk to that person and teach them the Dhamma.
Mhm.
And so this is how this isn't. They depended on each other, and
Yeah.
now monks are a little bit less. They do have credit cards. It's not gold or silver. The monks sometimes get a little bit sneaky on things, but in
Yeah.
this world, you have to. Your monks at
It's
that time
different.
only they would walk to places where they would go.
Yeah.
They didn't take 777s or A380s or go around the world or deal with time changes or so they have a lot of things. And of course, but the money is supplied by donations.
Mm.
All of our money here at Dhamma Sukha is donated. We do charge some money for the meditation retreats, but it just covers the costs of what people are paying. And if they wish to donate later, they can. And that's what builds the buildings is the donations that come in later.
Yeah.
And
And it's
so
good merit to support monks and to support the work of monks, to support the work of meditation. So there's a benefit for the donator as well, isn't
absolutely.
there? I can link to one of your talks about it because I thought that was a very good talk. But that makes
Oh yeah.
sense, It makes sense
Yeah.
what the Buddha
Yeah.
taught about generosity is you're giving
Yeah.
for a very good cause.
The purer the person is that you donate to, the more merit accrues to you.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny because it's in Sutta 142, exposition on giving. And let me tell you, a lot of meditation teachers and people talking about Buddhism or other religions, they don't want to talk about money because it's like, oh no, they're trying to get our money. But it's a really key teaching is generosity or dana. Uh, it's very important. It lets you let go of the things that you have, and you help other people, but you're helping yourself because your mind becomes so free of this. But it says that if you give a gift to an animal, to your dog, you get 100 times back. So when you give a biscuit to the dog, you're going to get 100 biscuits. So this is good. If you're reborn as a
Yeah.
dog, you might want to keep this in mind. But if you give a gift to a homeless person, somebody who's of immoral status, does not follow precepts, they may be into whatever they are into, this is like 1,000 times benefit. If you give a gift to a relatively moral person, you could be talking about, and this is in the sutta, like 100,000 times. If you give a gift to somebody who's free of hatred, free of the hindrances, this is an incalculable amount of merit because it's so rare in the world. So it's the purity. But on the other hand, it's also the purity of the giver. So if somebody who's completely pure gives a gift to another pure person, they get the most merit. But we're not totally pure. So but as we proceed, and go along the path, we become more pure and we give more. And those gifts even accrue more merit to us because of our own purity now. It's an interesting type of thing. There's the kingly gift, the queenly gift, the beggarly gift, those kind of things where the beggarly gift is, you give something that like old clothes that you don't want anymore. And you just, you give that to the Goodwill. We have Goodwills and Salvation Armies. You just dump all that stuff
Shop.
there. It's, yeah, thrift shops. Yeah. And at least you're not throwing it away, but you're giving it. But it's no big deal to you, but there is some giving to that. And then you give a gift that's, it's a reasonable, you buy lunch, then you're getting into, okay, you're spending some real money and you're giving a reasonable gift. But then there is the bigger gift. There's giving to, say, a certain cause, like half of your wealth. That's a kingly gift. That's really going beyond what's comfortable. A monk I know said, you should always try to give something that's maybe a little bit out of your comfort level. If it's pushing your level of giving, that can increase it's kind of pushing your level. So these levels of there's levels of giving. There's a lot of things about giving in Buddhist literature.
Sounds really good. Clear path to compounding.
But let me just say that you have to be careful, because people will judge this and they'll say, oh, you're just trying to get more.
Yeah.
And the Buddha said, yes, you should do that because that's the way to do it. And it's not greedy. It's because you're following the plan. It's like one of your clients said, oh, Cleona, I shouldn't save this money because I'm just trying to get more. I'm trying to have a good retirement. And you say, what? Well, of course, you're trying to have a good retirement, so you should save more money. So in the same way, you should give more gifts because your retirement, not only in this lifetime, but future lifetimes, will be better. We have to think about not only this lifetime, but if there are other lifetimes, maybe we should give some thought to that. So if at the end of our life now, if we were to die and go, well, I guess there is nothing beyond this life, we'll say, okay, we lived a good life. We did a lot of good things. Great. Okay, done, died, dead. But if there is something out there, and it does depend on wholesome actions, we'll have it covered. Our 401k, our retirement program for other lifetimes is in place. And so I like to be covered every way I can. Because when the Grim Reaper is coming, I want to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you've secured it. Brilliant, David. This was really wonderful. Such a great talk. And I hope people can also come and explore the Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation that you teach at Dhamma Sukha. There's lots of online retreats. And I just want to reiterate that you don't have to be Buddhist. You can be just a person that's interested in meditation because,
No, I wasn't Buddhist until somebody told me I was a Buddhist. Right. They said, are you a Buddhist? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm just learning about Buddhism and things. No, you're a Buddhist. You're doing everything. I said, oh, I guess I'm a Buddhist. I mean, the Buddha wasn't a Buddhist.
He wasn't a Buddhist. No.
So,
no. Yeah. Exactly. It's just something we lay over. But thank you so much, David. Is there anything else that you wanted to say, or shall we say goodbye?
Well, just one more thing is that Buddhism isn't about having faith or worshiping a god, or it's about
rituals,
taking responsibility for your own life. And if you want to live a good life, do the things that will create a good life. A god or some other being is not going to do it. It's on you, and it's up to us to make ourselves happy. And so I wish for everybody to be happy. And but you have to do it yourself. So good luck.
I like that. I like that explanation of what Buddhism is. Take responsibility for your life, 100% responsibility for your happiness, for your suffering, and you can do what
Because
you need to do to
nobody
get
else
out.
will. Nobody
Yes.
else will for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. No miracle person in the cloud. Like when I was a child, I believe, somebody in the clouds would like
Right.
grant my
Yeah.
wishes. But no. Yeah. It's up to you.
That's not yet. I'm still waiting for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, David, for your time and for
Okay.
sharing this wonderful wisdom from the Buddha with us. This is really valuable. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for having me.